Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of TheBearShareShow. This is your host, Andre Matoyer, and today I want to talk about a personal topic, but it's a topic that my friends have been sort of asking me a lot over the last couple of years, and I figured what better place to share that question and sort of my advice on it than on The Bear Share Show. I'm by no means an expert, but I do appreciate sharing some good advice if it can definitely help somebody. And that's kind of the goal of today's podcast, is to just kind of share some light on a topic, and hopefully you guys can take something out of it and apply it to your situation. So what's been going on is I've been working really hard on sort of a lot of self-improvement over the last couple of years. And some of my friends have noticed that, which I appreciate. And they've come to me sort of with the question of, hey, I've been kind of feeling just like in a funk, or things just kind of aren't that great. I've been kind of frustrated. I feel unmotivated. I feel sort of depressed. I'm not productive. Like, how do I get out of that feeling? And what did you do to get out of it yourself? So what I'm classifying that as is basically they're telling me that they are in a rut. What I want to do in today's podcast is sort of address that question head on, with my experience of how I felt. And then also I want to just sort of give my advice on what you can do to help get out of that feeling, or at least what worked for me. And maybe that can give you guys some inspiration if you're feeling in a rut to find your way out of it. I always think of being in a rut like that U2 song that talks about like you're stuck in a moment and you can't get out of it. Well, hopefully after the podcast today, you have some idea of when you are stuck in a moment, you know how you can get out of it. So that's kind of my idea today. I know with myself, it was all brought to my attention when a friend of mine just simply asked the question, hey, Andre, are you happy right now? And I couldn't answer him. I literally just was like, no, like, I don't think I am at all. I was in a period of time where I just wasn't in love with my career anymore. I noticed, and you might notice, that your mood is a little bit shorter. I had less patience. I was using food and finding ways to entertain myself to try to get out of that feeling and make myself happy. I was in a lot of negative thinking patterns. I was overly venting to my friends and just being relatively frustrated all the time, and it wasn't making me a pleasant person to be around. And I also found myself just self-comparing a lot to other people. And I was thinking, oh, I wish I was like that, or I wish I was doing what they're doing, or experiencing this or that. And I felt like I was generally just on autopilot. I wasn't exactly living my life the way that I wanted to. And it was just kind of this hopeless feeling where I was like, this is where I'm at. I'm stuck. How do I get out? It just seemed so overwhelming. So I was definitely checking all of those boxes of feeling like I was in a rut. And I said, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. I know if I don't change, I'm going to just continue with the same feeling I'm already feeling, which is like crap. So if I make changes, perhaps the only way to go at this point is up. And that was what I was hoping to achieve. So some ways that I was able to get out of my rut was I first just kind of took some time with myself, and I made a pros and cons list of the good and bad of what I was feeling. And I'm a big fan of writing things down, whether it be on a computer or on a notepad. Your head can sort of feel overwhelming when you're thinking about all of your thoughts. So putting it out on paper and getting it out of your head just sort of made everything seem less cloudy and just more clear. And reading it back to myself made me feel more like, okay, like I was addressing my issues head on. And so with my pros and cons list about my life, I first started with the pros, and I wrote down on the pros, like, what are things I'm grateful for? You know, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for good friends. I'm grateful that, you know, even though I wasn't totally in love with my career anymore, I was grateful that I was employed. You know, just simple things. I had shelter. I had a great roommate. Like, all of these things matter. And I just needed to write down all of those pros because I think when you're in that negative headspace, being in a rut, you forget those pros. So I started there. Then that gave me kind of a positive boost to tackle the cons. And the cons were just, what were the honest, true things I was feeling that I needed to change and that was not quite right. And on the cons list, I just sort of wrote everything out. And that's where I started to feel a lot more like release of anxiety, because I was able to kind of get all of those negative feelings out on paper. I then was able to ask myself the next question, which was, all right, Andre, what do you want? And so I think after you're done with your pros and cons list, you need to ask yourself that next question. What do you want? And it's a very simple question, but it is a very difficult question to answer, because I think a lot of us are often super concerned more about what other people want for us and what we think we want based on other people's perceptions. But if you really sit there, how often do you really ask, what do you want? Really, really be honest. Like, do you want to change your body? Do you want to change your job? Do you want to change where you're living? Do you want to change your relationship status? What is it that you're looking to make a change about? So take the time to answer that question. The next step is to make a list of your goals. And you can do that by using your cons list as a way to derive what goals you want to set yourself up for the future. Writing those goals out, again, I'm a huge fan of writing things down. It made those goals seem less abstract and less difficult to achieve and a lot more attainable. It wasn't just a thought in my head or a cloud or an emotion. It was an actual sentence. And I was like, okay, I can target this. This is something I can control. And then the next thing I did was I sorted my goals based on, all right, what's the most pertinent and what's going to be the one that needs to be addressed first, second, third? What's the order of priorities of how I can tackle these goals? And then also, while I was doing that, I was thinking, all right, what are some of those goals that I can tackle right away? One of the things that you may notice is when you're in a rut, you just feel like you're in this cycle of every day is the same and you're in this sort of crappy routine. So one of the things you can do to break out of that routine is instantly just start adding a change to it. So with that, I looked at my goals, and my two biggest goals that I wanted to focus on in the fall of 2019 for me when I was in this process was tackling my weight and tackling my career. I just knew I was ready for a change. And so I was like, all right, well, what's something I can do right away that can impact just a change in my physical activity or diet today? And that started with me deciding, all right, I'm going to wake up before work and go for a walk. And that required me to wake up at 5 a.m. And I would walk, start off with 2 miles, then it went to 3, 4, 5. But the point is I decided that I was going to wake up early in the morning and go for a walk. And right away, that change of routine was great, because not only was I now taking a baby step toward one of my goals, which was controlling my weight, I also changed my routine, and that started impacting my mood, where I was starting to feel better. I was like, okay, look at me. I'm able to get all these steps in before I even get to work. That's great. The next thing I did was I stopped listening to some of those negative voices that you get that maybe makes you feel like you can't do something. So when it came to my next goal of looking for a career change was, you might think you know all the answers to what's coming, but we're not mind readers or fortune tellers. We really don't know. So, I might assume oh, no one's going to want to hire me. My skills aren't transferable. This sucks. No, do your research. What's out there? And sure enough, I learned a lot through my research about how certain things work and maybe how my skills could be transferable. And ultimately that gave me hope into making those changes to move forward and make those changes to my career. And again, anytime you change that behavior and start taking those baby steps towards your goals, you're going to feel better. And that's essentially what I kept doing. The last thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think it's one thing to vent, but it's another thing to sort of ask very specific questions to people that may be able to help you achieve your goals. And it doesn't even always have to be a friend, it could be a professional. So I did start going to counseling, and I did also seek help when it came to my weight from a weight loss company. And I also sought out some career advisors to sort of help me figure out the best way to move forward in a career change. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but finding the right people and asking the right questions can be really invaluable because it gives you just more hope, and it reminds you like, hey, you don't know all the answers. Like maybe this new information can help you get to where you need to go, and then re-inspire that motivation. So not everything was always easy, right? So what happened during those times where I did feel unmotivated and I didn't want to do those new habits and changes? Well, one of the things that kept me going was that low feeling. I remember just those times where I felt like crap. And I just reminded myself, like, hey, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So everything that you're doing is a step away from that feeling. And, it only allowed me to move up and go further. And so, whatever it is that you decide is going to be your motivating factor, hang on to that and use that every time you want to quit, every time you want to give up, every time you want to just throw in the towel. Think about what motivates you, whether it be a feeling, a person, whatever it is. Use that and keep that handy so that you're less likely to fail towards your goals. And so, again, that is how I got through it. Going through a rut sucks, but hopefully this podcast today gave you some inspiration and kind of gave you an idea of what you can do to get through it. And if I can just give one piece of advice throughout this whole learning process of being in a rut and getting out of it, it would simply be, don't wait for you to start your life. You only have one life to live it, and you don't need permission from other people to do what's best for you. You're going to get probably questioned throughout this process about why you're doing what you're doing, why you're making these changes. But if you know deep down that what you're doing is right and what's best for you, then just keep doing it, because not everyone fully understands what you're dealing with, and they don't always need to. You need to do what's best for you. That might seem a bit selfish, but I think it's important to remember that before you can help anyone else and before you can be your best self, you need to be yourself. So take this time as you're getting out of your rut to do that. That's the whole journey, and that's the whole reason for this process. So I'm going to warn you, it's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight, but those small baby step changes really do matter and really do make a difference in being able to get out of your rut and move on to the next chapter of your life. So thank you, everyone, again for listening to the Bear Share Show. I really hope that today's podcast can help make a difference for you. And if you like what I'm doing with the podcast, please go ahead and hit that follow button on either Apple Music or Spotify. And then please feel free also to follow the Bear Share Show on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram as well. So once again, thank you so much. This is Andre Matoyer coming at you from the Bear Share Show, and I look so forward to the next episode. So stay tuned until then. Thank you. Bye.